I've always had this myth that like, yeah, every time I go to Europe, I feel like $1 million. And it's probably just me and kind of getting maybe a little bit red pilled. Tell everybody about your whole, disco theme on this. And I think it's a super cool one because a lot of people talk about this. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
so the reason we covered this is there was a TikTok that went viral of a girl that says she buys essentially mails over her groceries from Italy because she is allergic to American food and she can only eat this Italian food. And so she does unboxings. And again, you have to take for face value what she's sharing. But apparently, she's spending about $500 on a grocery box. In that, when we covered it, it was like eggs, some milk, a couple different vegetables and fruit. And
Hmm.
so it's very kind of this very unrealistic thing for most average families to do. But painting this picture that you need to be afraid of American food and that European food is so much better. And it's obviously not just that reel or TikTok. I mean, that is a rhetoric you scroll. I feel like you see that all the time, kind of as you allude
Yeah.
to. I can eat dairy over there. I can't eat it here. I can eat bread over there. I can't eat it here. Like there's this very, even when it comes to regulation and policy, a lot of people will say that European has better food policy than America, right? So there's just this general a perception that Europe is doing food right and America is doing food wrong. And again, two things can be true at the same time,
Yeah.
right? I do think that Europe has some really great things about this. And this is what I talked about on the podcast because I said, actually, I'm just coming off of a trip from Europe. And there are some things that I think are really great over there. They do really, really well. Like for breakfast, they, have meat and cheese. They have animal proteins out, and it is part of the daily diet. Here in America, I mean, me and my husband eat that way. We eat sausage usually most mornings with eggs. Like we have an animal protein to start our day every single day. And so for me, it wasn't that much different. But I think for the average American, you're not necessarily getting a high protein breakfast, right? You're getting something. You're getting coffee. You're getting something from the drive-through. You are getting croissants, which actually Europe does a ton. I was like, their breakfast is a dessert table also. Like, let's not forget that there's a lot of things up there that aren't healthy either.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it's just interesting. I think a lot of here's what my whole thing with Europe versus America, because it's too convoluted to give a blanket statement for me. There are things that they do better. There are things that I think we do better. They have some policies I like. They have some policies I hate. Like would I want to go to European food system? No, I think the EU regulations are very, very stringent on farmers and agriculture. And if you actually talk to someone over there that is growing food, I think there are some very hard things about growing food. They actually import a lot of food too. So I think like, there's just a lot of things to take into conversation. But what I think happens when people get kind of to your effect, point, this placebo effect where they're like, I went over there and I felt so great. I think you're forgetting the entire big picture.